Hello and greetings vinyl community and Queen fans. I've literally just got in from watching Bohemian Rhapsody, the new Queen movie about Freddie Mercury and Queen. So it's my my review and honest opinion about it. So spoilers alert. So interesting, odd, fun, a little bit funny, entertaining, yes. So, did I leave the cinema entertained? Yes, I did. Did I leave the cinema in a good mood and friends with the movie? Yes, I did. So, how did the movie go? Interesting and odd. It's going to be difficult to understand because I am a Queen fan, so it's difficult to forget what you know about Queen and try and watch the movie with fresh eyes, not knowing anything about Queen, to know how it plays to a general audience. It's got all the hits through it, so in that sense it's going to play very well. It's going to go down well with the audience because everybody's going to know all of the songs in the movie. So it's not just a musical movie for the fans of the band. If it was somebody who was like slightly less, slightly less internationally well known. However, for fans of Queen and for people who are knowledgeable about Queen, it's going to come across as a very strange movie to watch. I've got a feeling a lot of Queen fans are going to hate it. I don't know if hate's a strong word, but it uses Queen tropes in a way. The movie is told chronologically. It has a bit from Live Aid at the beginning, so it sort of has the end of the movie at the beginning. That's not a problem, but it's basically a chronological telling of Queen and Freddie Mercury. However, I've read a lot about Queen over the years, and there is an accepted narrative of, how they all met, the way they developed, what happened, and the way they tell it in this movie is, for saying that Brian May and Roger Taylor were involved, it's like the movie has been told by somebody from a post-apocalyptical world where they've only got snippets of archives, maybe a few half-garbled third-hand eyewitness stories and accounts or something, because it's very, very mixed up. There's a lot, right from the beginning I realised that, there's going to be a lot of artistic licensing here. They're not going to just tell exactly what happened, because that's going to be boring for a main audience. They need to change things around a bit, tell a few little white lies, change a few things, move things, to give a narrative flow for a movie. Having said that, there are some very strange decisions. They jump about, and it's like all the Queen tropes that they have are universal and don't belong to any particular time period of Queen. They're all there for the picking. So of course, for the soundtrack of the movie, to help tell the story of the movie, they have the entire Queen back catalogue to choose from. There are other songs in the movie, So they use Queen songs to tell the story. But they do some very strange things. So right at the beginning of the movie, they're telling a little bit of the story about them recording the first album, which is sort of, I was watching thinking, that's sort of, is that factually correct? That seems a bit, is that how it happened? They seem to have taken an interesting story and just sort of made it happen, as it were. And then they go into a montage of them playing America, which they did twice in those early days, for the first album and the second album, I think I remember. And for the montage of them playing America, which is kind of the signal in the movie that they've gone up a level, they've made it big, not as big as Bohemian Rhapsody was going to make them, but they're now rock stars, they're now a rock band. When they played the montage of them being in America for Queen and Queen 2, the music they use for the montage is Fat Bottom Girls. To let that image sink in. And what's even stranger is, as a Queen fan, I'm sat there in the audience watching this and I'm thinking, well, have they just skipped 5 years? And if they have, they've jumped right over Bohemian Rhapsody. And I thought half of the movie was practically going to be about Bohemian Rhapsody. So, and you've got this really incongruous image of Freddie Mercury with long hair, John Deacon with long hair, Freddie in the iconic 1973, 74, 75 big brown fur coat, big long hair, you know, the microphone real close up, singing songs like Hey Big Spender, but he's singing Fat Bottom Girls. It just really unsettling. As a Queen fan, I don't think, well, it kind of fits sort of visually and audibly as it were for the movie, but it's very strange, and they keep doing things like that. So they're telling a story in 1981 and they use events from 1985 and 1986 to illustrate it. And before the end, so obviously the movie ends with, you know, with the Live Aid concert. It's the big spoiler, I guess. It's not really a spoiler. I think we know this about the movie anyway. And Freddie finds out about him that he's got AIDS before this concert, and they the music, when he's contemplating AIDS, I think he's watching a news report about all the deaths in places like San Francisco, and that the music that they use for that is Who Wants to Live Forever, which again is perfectly illustrative. I mean, and why not use a Queen song to illustrate that? But this is 1985, or really it would have been earlier than 1985, but this is 1985, and we're using a song that doesn't exist yet. So for dedicated Queen fans, they're going to find it, what's the phrase, discombobulating. Now, for the performances, so Rami Malek, I mean, yeah, he was okay. He wasn't brilliant. I don't think he fully nailed it. There was a couple of moments, but I didn't really feel I was watching Freddie. I felt I was watching Rami wearing a big moustache, playing Freddie. And I couldn't help but shaking that thought at the back of my head all throughout the movie of, I would have loved to have seen Sacha Baron Cohen's Freddie. I wonder how he would have pulled it off. You know, it was a good effort. There were a couple of moments, he got some nuances there, but it was a film of tropes and pastiche. It's one of those movies, they don't give you enough time to get into the characters. We don't get to meet Freddy in this movie. We don't get to find out who Freddy is. I mean, I don't think we ever did, and we ever will anyway. However many books we read about him, and you know, whatever, he's not here to tell his story. So we'll never really know, and we don't really meet him. There's a couple of moments when, I mean, he kind of pulls it off, and there's one moment in particular when Freddy's kind of arguing with the band, and they're saying, yeah, we're a family, and he's like, no, you know, you've all got families, you've got kids, you've got kids, you've got kids, I've got nobody. That delivery, because it's guttural, and that's it, for half a second there, you saw and heard Freddy in that, on that screen, in the persona of Rami. He, for that fleeting moment, he captured it. The other characters, I mean, you know, John Deacon, I mean, he has a couple of moments later on when they're writing Another One Bites the Dust. But, I mean, John Deacon, I mean, he may as well not be in it, really. His character doesn't really have much to do. Brian and Roger are they're odd characters. I mean, Brian doesn't really do anything or say anything apart from the odd just mannerism and gesture and do you think so? And he has a couple of lines. Roger's role is just to be a kind of to push against everything, to sort of be combative. To he's like the catfish, to, you know, nipping at the cod's tails, as it were. Like Freddy delivers a line when he comes back after Mr. Bad Guy album, when they decided to do Live Aid, and he says, you know, he had 20 odd musicians in that studio, and they all did exactly what he asked them to do, which was the problem, because when he's with Queen, they don't do exactly what he wants them to do. They all push back, and they all have their own individual says and takes on things, so Freddie doesn't get his own way all the time. He says, you know, I need you for that. So I mean, the characters, they're supposed to be there as a foil for us, for us to meet Freddie and for Freddie to work against, but they're not really developed. They have half lines spoken here and there, and Freddie's not given time to breathe. We don't meet Freddie. They give us some moments with Mary Austin, and can see what they're trying to do, but they don't deliver Freddie for us. It's only really at the end of the movie. I mean, like I say, you're a little bit discombobulated. A couple of reasons. One, with all the retelling of history, the strange sorting out of facts and retelling of things in a strange way, and the odd way of using the music out of time. Really disorientated. When it comes to the final act of the movie, the last part, when they play Live Aid, I mean, that really is spectacular. It's absolutely worth the rest of the movie for that payoff. At one moment I really thought they were going to do the entire Live Aid performance, and it is an extended sequence. I mean, they do 3 or 4 songs, I think, 3 or 4 songs from Live Aid in that end sequence, all completely played out, and you're there on stage with Freddie for a few minutes there. The crowd is amazing, although, you know, there are some moments there. Yes, everybody kind of agrees that Queen stole the show at Live Aid. Bob Geldof said himself that, you know, they brought everybody's focus back on to the day on Live Aid. But there was a bit of an over-egging of the role there. It's almost like Live Aid was just a flatlining failure, and sort of Queen rescued Live Aid and basically, you know, saved Africa, saved the world. You know, they stick a random pub in that sequence, and they keep going back to the pub, and everybody's. So, for instance, in the pub when they're playing Live Aid, and everybody's clapping along to Live Aid, they're all doing it in the pub, and they're all singing and swaying to "We Are the Champions" and that, watching on telly. You know, that was a bit much. That's a bit too kind of saccharine, you know. And there are a few moments where, you know, the crowd, if you watch the footage from Live Aid, you can see, I mean, the crowd are completely into it. And they got the crowd very good. But some of the close-ups when they go in, you know, they have like people weeping and hugging in the crowd and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit over the top. It's almost into the realms of kind of sort of Japanese style, you know, rock band saves the world literally during a concert, and everybody loves one another forevermore. And, you know, there's a few clever moments, there's a couple of good lines. Like I said, obviously they pick some Queen tropes. They reference Wayne's World very cleverly whilst they're talking about Bohemian Rhapsody back in 1976. Very, very clever way they did it. But, you know, they've simplified and changed all the kind of the way things happened, as it were. It's an odd retelling. It's almost like a fictionalized account of the real thing, if you know what I mean. Until it ends on Live Aid, and that, like I say, it makes everything worthwhile up to that. You know, for that Live Aid sequence. And, you know, the songs what more songs could they choose to roll the credits with than "Don't Stop Me Now" and "The Show Must Go On"? You know, so as a Queen fan, despite the disorientation, the discombobulation, the questions, and during the first part, one-dimensional characters, it's simplistic plot writing. There's, you know, it's not fantastic up to that point. I think it's a 3-star movie at 2.5 at the best. That last 20 minutes or so segment at the end, you know, it's just completely worth it. I left the cinema on a high. That Live Aid segment was a real feel-good moment. It's one of those that makes going and sitting in the cinema worthwhile. You know, sometimes you watch a movie and you don't remember a boring 20 minutes of it. You may never see the movie again, but you will remember a segment. If I never see the movie again, I will always remember that Live Aid segment and the joy it brought to me sitting in the cinema, and the 2 songs as the credits rolled that I had, you know, "The Show Must Go On" and "Don't Stop Me Now" ringing in my head as I walked home. So overall, I am obviously a Queen fan. I am a bit of a movie buff, so I'm going to struggle to give it more than 3.5 stars, I think. You know, it's going to be difficult to justify 4 stars, because whilst the performances are spot on for the characters, it's a little bit like Eric Idle, the way he says, you know, you put on a moustache and a wig and a coat and you've got the character, but that's not necessarily acting. I think that's kind of what we've got here. They've got the characters off pat, they've got them nailed down, but we're not really watching much acting going on. Like I said, there's a couple of moments from Rami. So yeah, 3.5 stars. a good movie. It'll confuse Queen fans, but you will love the end. And I think for general audiences, they'll enjoy it because there's enough Queen hits in there for everybody. And again, everybody's going to enjoy that Live Aid segment because it is worth it. And I think, I think it's going to get a lot of negative reaction in this movie. Despite that, I think that Live Aid section is something to go down in movie history because they have it's so faithfully recreated. If you know that Live Aid concert, that Queen segment, a step for step, movement for movement, you know, when Freddie's on the piano playing "We Are the Champions," he says, you know, I thank you all, and they cheer, and he gives a half little wave. All those little gestures are in there. The way John Deacon moves, the way Brian stands when he's playing the guitar, it's absolutely perfect. You know, pixel perfect for the original concert. So yeah, you will love it. You will enjoy it. It's not a great movie, but it's fun and entertaining. So what more can we ask for?